You're listening to the Final Say Radio Show, a Rappaport media production, with your host Brett Rappaport and co-host John Rappaport.
Without further ado, I want to introduce Avital Leibovich, and she is the former spokeswoman for the Israeli Defense Forces, and she's currently the director of the Jerusalem office for the Jewish advocacy group AJC. And Avital, please forgive me. I've had a little bit of a cold this week, so my throat's been a little tough. But anyway, it's so nice to have you back on the Final Say Radio Show with Brett and John. And we've enjoyed reading your column, your piece in the New York Times entitled "Only Negotiations Could Lead to Palestinian Statehood," and really couldn't agree with you more. And I just want to bring up something, as we unfortunately all read about the terrorist attack, or whatever you want to refer to it as a Palestinian car, or using his car to slam into a crowd in Jerusalem. And I believe a 3-month-old American Jewish boy was killed, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it was a 3-month-old baby girl. She had an American citizenship. It was a couple that actually tried to have kids for 13 years, and they went to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, got off the light rail, and terrorists who had the background in Israeli prisons took a car and actually ran them over, including a few other people, pedestrians, and it's very tragic. And it's not only tragic, I think it symbolizes something which doesn't give much hope, and this is actually the lack of mutual values between us and as the Israelis, as Jewish people, and a terror organization like Hamas. This terrorist, the murderer that killed this baby was Hamas affiliated. And just a few weeks ago, Hania's daughter was hospitalized and treated in an Israeli hospital in Tel Aviv, in the center of Tel Aviv. And so this is a child versus a child. And you think to yourself, what kind of possible mutual values can we share here with a terror organization, and will it end? And I can tell you that the Prime Minister this evening, Israeli time, called to heighten the security level here in Israel, especially in Jerusalem, due to the recent events.
Avital, I think this, while a very sad event, it highlights the importance and the timing of the article that you wrote in the New York Times. We have been watching a very well organized and a global effort to demonize and delegitimize Israel, which is the only true democracy in the Middle East, and quite frankly, I believe the only stable country in the Middle East, truly stable country. And, given the fact that you have all this chaos going around, if you would, give us a brief description of why you pose the question, does the Middle East need another failed state?
Well, I think, a new country, a new state cannot be based on international pressure and international backup. It will not work and will lead to a failed state. Simple things like security and the ability to govern are just two very primary basics, essentials in order for a country to be built. And, of course, the definition of borders issue. And none of these three very basic topics has been answered, or does it look like it's going to be answered. Now look around us. Here in my neighborhood here in the Middle East, you cannot predict tomorrow morning. I don't know if some stray missile will hit the house in the Golan Heights coming from ISIS in Syria, or maybe Hezbollah in Syria, or perhaps Iranian forces in Syria. Who knows? Hezbollah is continue to gear up and make sure it has the same amount of ammunition that it had a few years ago following the Second Lebanon War. Yesterday there was an event on the Egyptian-Israeli border from the Sinai, probably some sort of smuggling of drugs, but it ended with a soldier that was severely wounded. So everything is fragile in this area. And I'm not even mentioning the fragmentation of Libya and other processes that are taking place in Yemen, Tunisia, and, Sudan is not far away as well, especially with its deserts being served as channels or routes for smuggled weapons. So I don't think that a Palestinian state that is sometimes naively pushed by international pressure will succeed in such a turmoil and burning Middle East.
There's two aspects of what you just brought up that I think are so important to focus on. One is the fact that a treaty is totally irrelevant unless the person or the country who you're in a treaty with actually has good intentions. But even if they have good intentions, if they're not a country that's on a stable foundation, that treaty will be irrelevant. I mean, look at the position that Ukraine finds itself in, having given up its nukes. The lesson learned to the entire world is you'd be an idiot to ever give up your nukes, lest a larger predatory nation come after you. So the question I have with that as a backdrop is, do you feel that the UN, the EU, and even the USA have to a large extent been emboldening the unilateral behavior because there seems to be a reward system that we continue to pay and appease the folks who are not taking enough steps for peace? And I'm speaking specifically of the PA and of Hamas.
Well, I think that we need to look at the full picture, the entire picture, because it has quite a few pieces. Israel is one of them, but there is an opportunity right now in the area called Middle East, and this is the capability or ability to form some sort of a coalition between different countries, I would say the moderate countries, and with that coalition to fight together the jihadist extreme elements in the region. Now, as for inside Israel, and for your question, well, I think we need to be very careful by the rewards, Fatah is receiving here. I'm not sure there is a reason to give rewards, and I don't see the other side giving rewards. I mean, if you're just logging in or watching the official Palestinian TV channel, you'll see some things that you would not believe your ears, and they're miles and miles far away from peace or anything talking about peace. So I think it's very complicated, and I think it cannot be looked at one specific issue, but rather it's the whole full picture of what's going on in the Middle East. And once again, the rewards issue, what we like to call carrots and sticks, I think needs to be weighed very, very carefully. And of course, the UN is a significant party here, and it has a major role to play. And I hope it will be played in a wise way.
Well, I think that's the key point. There has to be some wisdom behind there. Two of the really hypersensitive issues that I believe are also affecting this. One is with the Palestinian-Israeli equation is a very hypersensitive one, but it seems like there's no way that's ever going to be settled without a more assertive participation from Jordan, and potentially, and I don't know if you find in Israeli circles, this seems to be a bit of a third rail conversation piece, but is there the possibility that at some point a settlement will only be reached if Jordan actually agrees to somehow take in whatever the agreed portion of the Palestinian land as part of the Jordanian sovereign, or is that, again, just complete third rail conversation in the Israeli body politic?
Well, your question really goes back to what I said before, looking at the full picture. And Jordan right now is very much preoccupied with its own trouble, which is 1 million Syrian refugees taking shelter in its country, and the economy there is not too much flourishing. So I don't think that Jordan will be playing any active part as of now, since it has some, I would say, challenging borders to control and enforce. So I don't think it will be in this kind of game right now.
Well, Avital, I know it's late in Israel, and I know you're going to have to go in a minute here, but I just want to, personally, I want to thank you for all the amazing work that you've done as a spokeswoman and as an advocate for peace and sovereignty and strength and for the values that we share here in the U.S. and in Israel. And I think you really have an amazing history. I always try to follow your work and encourage our folks do the same, as well as to support and pay attention to the AJC. If you would, before I let you go, please let people know where they could reach you and how they could support the AJC.
So first of all, thank you for your kind and warm words. It's always a pleasure to speak on this radio show. And first of all, I can be followed on Twitter. I'm a bit of a social media freak, so anybody who's looking for me can write my name, Avital Leibovich, and will find me on Twitter. AJC is one of the oldest Jewish advocacy organizations, founded in 1906. We have offices worldwide, and I would say the main asset of AJC is the ability to have a global outreach and try and promote interests that have to do with relations between U.S. and Israel and the U.S. and Jewish communities all over the world. And I think we have a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes, very influential and very important. Everybody is welcome to surf and to ajc.org in order to read more and find out about how can they join in.
Excellent. Well, Avital, of course, that's where we first had the good fortune of meeting at an AJC event. I wish you and all of our friends, hopefully the year 5775 will be a bit more peaceful than the last, but time will tell. Thanks again for your efforts, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, and have a great evening.